This is the Mosen Mortgage Program with Sarah Mosen. Mosen Mortgage is licensed in several states for residential and commercial purchases and refinancing. Call 800-662-9550. And now, here's your host, Sarah Mosen.
Good morning, folks. It's Tuesday, and it's great to be back here again in the studios. And I enjoy the calls, and I certainly love the questions. So feel free to give us a call anytime, 1-800-662-9550. There are many things that affect you in respect to what kind of insurance policy you're going to hold or what kind of interest rate you're going to have on your auto policy. And, Carol, these are things that folks may not be aware of, but they are totally affected by what kind of credit score you're holding.
Wait, so your credit score can affect your car insurance?
Absolutely. It can affect your car insurance. Wow. It can affect the type of interest rate you're going to receive on a car that you're purchasing.
Wow.
Because it shows the responsibility that you've had in the past 12 months with paying your bills on time. And obviously, a lot of insurance policy companies don't want to deal with someone that may have been delinquent with their policy and maybe not paying on time.
Right. So they make it more difficult for you to get
Some of them won't provide it.
Wow.
The policy itself, because obviously it's sort of having a bad tenant. I mean, you're certainly not going to rent out your property to somebody who may have a credit history of delinquency.
Right.
And not paying their bills on time.
They don't want to have to write you off at the end of the year as a loss.
Right. And it's not as if they're going to do it in a way that they can say that you're being discriminatory. But they are looking for scores over 600, obviously, when you're looking for rental property and things of that nature. But the big thing is that you can still always correct your credit score. It's not set in stone. People think that it'll take 6 months or 8 months.
Yeah, how long does it take realistically?
It can take up to 30 days and 60 days, not necessarily 6 months or 12 months.
That's good to hear.
It is good to hear because we get so focused on where we are versus where we can be.
Yeah, and we're told that you really can't turn it around that quickly. I don't know if it's because the companies that offer credit repair, quote unquote, want you to feel like it's harder than it is. I don't know if it's just spin or what.
That's a good word, spin. In fact, a part of it is probably the marketing side of things. I mean, we've really not engaged with any of the credit repair companies in a relationship or partnership. We have provided the services and have not charged the client to repair their credit so that we can get them refinanced. And it takes sometimes just very simple tweaks to understand what the debt is, what the income is, and why they don't qualify. Because what's nice about our lenders, and we're on the wholesale side, and that's why our rates are lower than a local bank, is that we can look at the credit score and then we can actually figure out minor things. Perhaps there's a bill that is $500 that was due that wasn't paid, or maybe it was paid, but it's still showing up on the credit report.
Yes.
We may need that letter to verify that it was paid, but it's still showing up.
Okay, yeah.
And even things that may show up on title that may not be under your name because there might be a name such as Smith that is common.
Right.
And sometimes it might be just a credit card that needs to be paid off or brought down by a few $100s, which will bring your score up. And these are not major things.
Mm. But car loan debt is not necessarily a desirable thing, right?
I think that with car loans, obviously, you want to make sure you have the best possible rate.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you drive off the lot, if it's a new car, I mean,
you can hear the cash dropping away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's certainly not something that I would say look at vehicles that are used but in good condition, because then you don't want it to be a money pit. But even vehicles that they're using them as demos, there's nothing wrong with that.
No. And even like the pre-owned market is doing really, really well. Some people take it really easy on their cars, and I know several people are very happy with their pre-owned vehicles.
Well, there's nothing wrong with them as long as they're inspected and you can take a quick look and see whether there's been any real damage. And right now with technology, you can check and find out what kind of car you are going to be owning.
Some provenance. What do they call it? Provenance? Is that it? What they do with paintings?
I know.
See where it's been and what it was worth at the time. Well, so as you're getting into then, let's say we've got people getting into car loans. We've got people who are now in an car insurance situation, maybe it's because their kids now have learned to drive, for example. What should they be looking out for to make sure when they walk into the dealership, they've got their ducks in a row?
Mm-hmm. Well, with car loans nowadays, it just applies the same way, like student loans and homes. And sometimes you are looking at the help of your parent to get you into that car. And obviously, that may be based on limited trade lines or credit lines that you have. So kids that are buying their first car may not be in a position to qualify because maybe they don't have a job, or they do have a job, but they don't have enough credit lines or credit scores reporting to show what type of activity has occurred. So it does help to co-sign on that vehicle, but what is detrimental is to leave it with your child, to sort of expect them to make those payments on time, which you should, but you always need to make sure that you're aware that those payments are being made on time, because once you have co-signed with that individual, whether it's your child or a relative or a friend, they're kind of holding you hostage to what their behavior is on whether they want to pay or not pay.
And you've said, write a contract. Get them to sign a contract and say, I'm going to pay this much on this date every month or whatever the agreement is, and make sure that you're covering yourself against damages later.
Right, and keeping track, though, because even here's what happens, even with good intentions and someone who's responsible, if they do miss a payment, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's going to bring both your scores down.
Yeah.
This is like team effort. That's how life works. People always think, Carol, that, you do something and that it's not going to affect anyone. Like every action has a reaction. Every decision you make in life is going to affect 10 other people.
Right.
And we are so interconnected to each other. I'm so well aware of this that it's important for me to stress this.
Yes.
Because this is what I do, and this is what I see and hear, and I've lived it. And so I say to folks, be very careful about what decisions you make, and make sure that it's not going to negatively impact other people.
Right. Again, it's a good opportunity if you're considering things like getting into a car loan situation, or somebody's asked you, will you co-sign with me? It's a really good idea to call Sarah first. Just get an objective opinion from somebody who's used to money and how it works, and who's also used to relationships and how they work around money. Get some feedback, and it's for free. The phone call is free, and Sarah's happy to give free advice. 800-662-9550, and that applies to people who are looking at a first home this time of year, as the prices are pretty good and people are getting out and about and looking at properties in the good weather. If you are also hoping to retire someday soon, you might want to have Sarah take a look at your finances. If you have children in the house and you're concerned about them growing up with good money habits, what are some good rules for them, Sarah?
Well, I think the big thing is accountability. I mean, your kids are great. They're giving you tips, Carol. I can't. I really have no words of wisdom. I mean, that is truly wonderful and adorable.
Not the norm, though, is it really?
No, but these are the things that apply to later years.
Yeah,
and that just speaks volumes of where you are with your kids, and they watch you. That's how they learn. Everything you're doing, they're watching, and certainly building rules that are healthy about how money is supposed to be used, making sure that they're working for that, not just given that amount.
Right.
I've had friends of mine who have kids who rely on that constant bailout system where, if there's a problem, they're so used to going to mom or dad.
Right.
That doesn't stop at 10 or 20 or 30 or 40. That sometimes never stops.
It's sad. I mean, I'm laughing, but I know of situations where
You've heard.
And it's devastating for everybody concerned, because nobody wants to be in a position to have their parents bail them out. But at the same time, parents have worked their whole lives to not be in this situation.
Exactly.
And here they are again.
Well, they are. And obviously it is a habit that can be formed through, and I say it's codependent behavior, because if you have been doing it over and over again, then that is the only behavior you know. So it's patterns. And I mean, you don't have to be a psych major for that. But it is a cause and effect. So if you literally have to do these things at a very young age.
Yeah.
And have respect for money.
Yeah.
Because
But you've said, too, you don't have a problem with kids getting into the market a little bit either,
Not
right?
at
I mean,
all.
that's the point of the E-Trade baby,
It
isn't it?
is.
That a baby can do
I love it,
right?
I love it. I love it. It's not about big money.
No.
Money is fun to me. It's like
Yeah.
kids collecting Lego. I still love Lego. I mean,
You have to come to my house.
I do. I love
My
Lego.
house is practically built of Lego.
That's amazing. I mean, I love Lego. I love that ability to have like $1 and make $5. It's not 5,000 to 10,000. It's more fun when you put $2 and you get $5.
Right.
Because that's crazy insane. You're like, wow, I just bought a stock for $2.
More than doubled my investment.
Right. I
Right.
bought a stock for 89 cents. It went up to like $3.
That's awesome.
That was like the most fun I've ever had.
So it's okay to expose kids to that.
Absolutely.
And to saving and to being accountable. But you say accountability is the main thing, right? I mean,
Accountability,
can't
because you
stand
have to
for-
be responsible. You have to. We have lost sight of that a lot in our society. We've sort of become this and I love America. This is the country that, I mean, I was born to be here and die here. That's all I can say to you. I love this country. It gives you the opportunity to do anything you want to do. Seriously, it does. And you have to be responsible for your actions. It's not, you can't be in victim mode. It's not someone else's fault.
Right.
I mean, I've lived everywhere in the world, Carol. It can be someone else's fault in a third world country because you were brought up in poverty. And poverty there means no house, no microwave, no two cars. It means, if you're lucky, a shack.
Right.
And you have one meal a day, if you're lucky.
Right.
So I say to folks that take responsibility, make sure your kids are responsible, and make money a fun activity.
Yeah.
E-Trade is a great place to start.
Yeah.
Because it's not about high risk. You can go with small risk, and kids get excited. And they're doing this for in colleges, where for master's programs, for the business programs where they have groups that invest.
Yeah.
And whoever wins on the biggest return gets the biggest return through what they've made.
Yeah.
And they pool in their money, and that's fun because we need to be competitive.
Yeah.
We can't kind of keep our kids sheltered. And I have to say, there's certain countries where you're not even allowed to get an award because they don't want the kids to feel that one is better than the other.
Right. And, there's a point at which that's valid. I mean, certainly we're all created equal and that whole thing, but you also have to acknowledge merit.
Exactly.
Did you earn what you have? And there's, of course, the parable of the talents in the Bible, too. The one guy took his little sack and buried it in the backyard and thought that when the master came back, he'd be thrilled. Oh, I saved this little bag. But the other guys are going out and making money hand over fist over what they've been given. So, there's certainly each family has to decide for themselves how they want to operate monetarily. But it's good in general, right? You start early, teach good principles early, and they're watching you anyway. So
They are.
might as well make it official.
They are. And I mean, it's just a healthy view on life and money. And they see you, if you're struggling or you're stressed out, they see it. And it's going to carry on.
It will. And speaking of families, we're going to talk a little bit tomorrow in the show about starting a budget. So come on back tomorrow, everybody.
Sounds great. Stay well, folks.
This has been the Mosen Mortgage Program with Sarah Mosen. Mosen Mortgage is licensed in several states for residential and commercial purchases and refinancing. Call 800-662-9550.